Episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are covering the story of Cynthia Hoffman. Goes on a hike with some friends only to be killed in a catfish murder for hire. What a strange and sad story. And here is why. This person was supposed to be her best friend. This person was someone who went to school with her, known her for a while, and was her closest friend in a town that she didn't have a lot of friends. All she wanted was friends. And unfortunately, she made friends with the wrong person. Let's go ahead and dive into what we know at this time. Cynthia Hoffman was killed by her best friend along with some other teenagers because they were solicited by a 21-year-old who was lying about who he truly was in order to catfish some young adults, some young kids into killing someone. This is beyond belief. The planning and premeditated murder of 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman by a group of 5 young individuals after being catfished and solicited by a 21-year-old Darin Schilmiller of New Salisbury, Indiana. And based on interviews and a review of internet communication, investigators determined that Denali Brehmer, who also is known as Angel through her online fake profile, met and began an online relationship with a man going by the name of Tyler from Kansas within the few months leading up to this incident. Now, Tyler, who is also, his real name is Darin Schilmiller, he sent Brehmer a photograph of another young male purporting the photograph to be of himself, a rich person from Kansas City, something like that. Tyler, he also convinced Brehmer that he was a millionaire. This practice of assuming a fake identity to engage in online relationships is a practice commonly referred to as catfishing, where you are lying about your own persona of who you truly are. The investigation further established that, unbeknownst to Brehmer at the time, Tyler was actually a 21-year-old Darin Schilmiller of New Salisbury, Indiana. He does not look like the young man that he portrayed himself to look like. He is not a millionaire, and he lives in Indiana. Now, interviews and cell phone evidence, it revealed that during the course of Schilmiller's and Brehmer's relationships and several weeks before Hoffman's murder, the two began discussing a plan to rape and murder someone in Alaska. Schilmiller offered Brehmer $9 or more million to carry out the murder and have photographs and or videos of the murder sent to him. Brehmer agreed to commit a murder for him, and statements from all of the defendants involved, which was 6 total, indicate that Brehmer then solicited 4 friends, including 19-year-old Caleb Leland, 16-year-old, again, this was at that time, they are 3 years older, but at that time, this was 19-year-old Caleb Leland, 16-year-old Kayden Mcintosh, and 2 other juveniles to assist her in planning and carrying out the murder at Schilmiller's direction. Statements and cell phone evidence further indicates that at some point during May 2019 and early June 2019, the group assembled and discussed a plan to carry out the murder. The defendants stated that they agreed that each member of the group would receive substantial shares of money for their part of the planning and execution of the murder. Cynthia Hoffman, who was allegedly best friends with Brehmer, was selected by the group as the murder victim. Caleb Leland provided Brehmer and Mcintosh his vehicle to pick up Hoffman on June 2nd, 2019, in order to carry out the murder. According to multiple statements and other corroborating physical evidence, Brehmer drove Mcintosh and Hoffman out to Thunderbird Falls under the guise of going on a hike on June 2nd, 2019. The three of them went off trail and followed a path along the bank of the Eklutna River. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The group stopped at a clearing, and Hoffman's hands and feet were bound with tape. This is where they told her like they were playing a game, and they're gonna duct tape each of them. And that was not the case, because that's when they stopped at the clearing and Hoffman's hands and feet were bound with duct tape. Duct tape was also wrapped around her head, covering her mouth. Hoffman was shot one time in the back of the head by Mcintosh with Brehmer's gun. Her body was then put into the Eklutna River. Digital evidence and statements show Brehmer was communicating with and sending videos and photographs of the events surrounding the incident to Schilmiller at his directive throughout the duration of the event. There was no indication at that time that Hoffman was actually assaulted. After the murder, some of Hoffman's clothing, her cell phone, and her bag purse were destroyed by Mcintosh and Brehmer. Here is the river that she was thrown into. Digital evidence shows Brehmer texted Hoffman's family, indicating that Hoffman had been dropped off at Polar Bear Park in Anchorage. Brehmer also deleted her conversations with Schilmiller from her cell phone. On June 4, 2019, Brehmer and Mcintosh were interviewed at the Anchorage Police Department. Mcintosh was arrested for murder in the first degree after confessing to shooting Hoffman in the head. Brehmer admitted that Mcintosh shot Hoffman in the head and initially denied having any prior knowledge that the homicide was going to occur, stating that Mcintosh took the gun from her hand and then shot her. After further investigation, including a Snapchat video in which Brehmer appears to confess, Brehmer was re-interviewed by detectives at the Anchorage Police Department on June 7th. This would be 3 days after initially interviewing her. She then ultimately admitted to being solicited by Schilmiller, as seen in this image when he was in court, to commit the murder, and that the murder was planned once she realized she had been catfished by Schilmiller. And on June 8, 2019, detectives interviewed Caleb Leland. Leland admitted to knowing that Tyler had offered to give Brehmer $9 million. Now again, this guy here, Schilmiller, he had posed online catfishing as Tyler. He further admitted, Caleb himself further admitted, that they all agreed Hoffman would be the victim and that he lent his car to Hoffman after being told that they were going to pick up Hoffman and kill her. Leland indicated he was going to receive $500,000 for his role. Schilmiller was contacted by federal agents and Indiana State Police on June 9, 2019. He admitted to being Tyler and catfishing Angel. He told police he knew Hoffman was best friends with Brehmer. Here, pictured here, this is Cynthia Hoffman's father, who is finally getting justice. He has been heartbroken every which way. Now, Brehmer, or should I say Hoffman, she was best friends with Brehmer. And he further admitted to telling Brehmer to kill Hoffman, and that he and Brehmer had been planning a murder for 3 weeks. Schilmiller stated that he chose Hoffman as the victim. He informed investigators that Brehmer had been communicating with him throughout the murder and was sending him Snapchat photographs and videos of Hoffman tied up of the body afterward. And he admitted to convincing Brehmer that he was a millionaire and that he would pay her millions of dollars to kill Hoffman. Schilmiller, he further admitted that he and Brehmer discussed murdering another person after Hoffman, but that the plan was ultimately abandoned. Schilmiller further admitted to attempting to blackmail Brehmer after the homicide into raping people. Schilmiller was arrested by federal agents for a different matter, and he was in custody at that time. So originally, just 5 people were arrested in the killing of the mentally disabled 19-year-old woman who they say was duct taped, shot in the back of the head, and tossed into a river after being invited on a hike by her friend Denali Brehmer. Now, Denali, again, at first accused of murder and has since been found guilty of murdering her best friend Cynthia Hoffman on June 2nd with help from Caleb, who was 19 at that time, 16-year-old Kayden, and 2 other unnamed teens. And Brehmer, at the arraignment, said, "I know I did something wrong, and I know I could have probably done something different if I was able to, and I don't want my daughter knowing that her mom grew up a killer because I don't see myself as one." Now, again, Brehmer is not the one who ended up shooting her, but she is the one that basically orchestrated all of this, thinking she was going to get millions of dollars. And police say that she and the other 4 suspects schemed together to murder Hoffman and then cover their tracks. Again, the group invited Hoffman to join them on a hike through the popular Thunderbird Falls trail in the Chugiak area northeast of Anchorage. And so she thought she was going on a hike with some friends. That's literally what she thought was going on. It was there the 19-year-old who only had the mental age of a 7th grader was shot dead. That's what the police have shared. Investigators found Hoffman's body 2 days later. Her feet were still bound by duct tape, and the suspects initially tried to throw off any suspicion by using Hoffman's cell phone to text her family so it appeared she was still alive and had gone to another location. That's what investigators had shared. That's why they text her family saying and posing as Hoffman. Then they drove to Lions Park in northeast Anchorage and burned Hoffman's belongings. Brehmer and Mcintosh, they were initially charged with first-degree murder and evidence tampering. Brehmer then told police about the other suspects' alleged involvement, leading to the arrest of Leland and the 2 unnamed juveniles. Leland, 19 at that time, and the 2 other teens, 1 male and 1 female, were taken into custody. Police, they didn't provide a motive at the very beginning until they found out a lot more, including the catfisher himself. Now, her family, Hoffman's family, they were horrified. And the dad had shared, "All I know is that my daughter didn't deserve all of this." That's what Mr. Hoffman, seen here, had shared. And he also said she should have had the friends that she wanted. She shouldn't have had people that wanted to plot against her. And the ages of these people, I think it is sick. And now they don't have to live the nightmare that I have to live. Timothy, who appeared in court with his Chihuahua Bruiser, as seen here, said that his daughter met Brehmer when they were both students at Service High School. Cynthia had described Brehmer as her best friend. That's what Timothy had shared. Timothy is the dad again. Now, this is Timothy Hoffman. He said a developmental disability that caused his daughter to operate intellectually at about a 7th grade level had made her vulnerable. Her disability just made her want to have friends. That's what he told the New York Post. That's all she wanted, was just to be her friend. Leland, who told police that he had lent Brehmer and McIntosh his car for the murder, faces charges. He had faced charges of first-degree murder and first-degree conspiracy to commit murder. The 19-year-old man also faces additional charges of sexual assault and sexual abuse of a minor for allegedly assaulting the female juvenile suspect. Now, in the affidavit, it didn't say anything about an sexual thing going on. According to investigators, Leland told officers that he, McIntosh, Brehmer, and the 2 unnamed teens agreed to kill Hoffman near Thunderbird Falls in Chugiak area, which is 27 miles northeast of Anchorage. And so, pictured here, you can see Caleb Leland. And he, McIntosh, and Brehmer, and the 2 unnamed teens, they all agree to do the unthinkable near Thunderbird Falls in the Chugiak area. Now, the unnamed male teen said McIntosh and Brehmer came to his house on June 2nd and told him they had shot Hoffman and killed her. Investigators found Hoffman's body on June 4th in the Eklutna River, where Brehmer told authorities the killing occurred after they told Hoffman they were going for a hike. Hoffman's feet were then duct taped together. Now, Brehmer, he told police that she directed McIntosh to use a 9mm handgun that she was carrying to shoot Hoffman in the back of the head, while McIntosh said shooting Hoffman was Brehmer's idea and that she fired the gun. And 2 Snapchat videos were turned over to police by a friend of Brehmer. The first video shows Brehmer describing the story she later gave to police. The second video includes Brehmer apologizing to her family and friends and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it." And the Anchorage Daily News reports that when the 2 teens were initially questioned by police, they told detectives that the trio had decided to duct tape each other and take photos near the popular Thunderbird Falls trail in the Chugiak area. And according to their accounts, Hoffman started panicking after she was bound. At that point, Brehmer originally told detectives McIntosh took the gun from her hand and shot Hoffman in the back of the head before pushing the 19-year-old's body into the river. And then we would later find out even more that the Alaskan teenager that allegedly killed her supposed best friend after a man she met online promised to pay her $9 million if she sent him photos and videos of the killing. Now, Cynthia Hoffman, she went by CeeCee. Now, CeeCee, that's what all of her friends, her family, everyone close to her had referred to her as. She was then found dead with a gunshot wound to the back of her head and bound with duct tape. And they were all charged with this. But they still didn't at that time early on reveal a motive until they started getting more information about Darin Schilmiller, who posed as a millionaire named Tyler and offered Brehmer $9 million or more to RAPE and murder someone in Alaska. And that's when more started to come out. Brehmer, she was supposed to send photos and videos of the incident back to Schilmiller as part of this $9 million plan. Brehmer had told police that she and 16-year-old Kayden borrowed the friend's car, which I shared with you about that. And this is where, like, how could anyone in their right mind actually believe this to anywhere be true? I do not understand that. You can see here where Brehmer allegedly agreed to Schilmiller's plan involving Hoffman, whose nickname is CeeCee. And she says here, you can hear Tyler, I wish I never made a deal with you in the first place. We can meet, but once I see a cop, I'm telling him or her that I made you RAP people and killed CeeCee. I don't even deserve you. I still want kids, but I can't because I have a child PO fetish I'm trying to get over. I have a RAPE fetish I want to get over. So I can never help or be in a holly relationship. That's what Tyler had shared about his incident. Like, was this girl so insecure that she could easily buy this stuff? Like, my gosh. And then another couple messages. Tyler says, take her socks off. I need child. You can see that for yourself. Fully do that to her. I will make sure you see me today. Make it look like role play. You know what I mean? Like a POR movie. Remove those on video. And a lot of this I have to be careful. These are sensitive words. Now, Brehmer sends Tyler 2 videos. In the first video, Brehmer removes the victim's underwear and another one in the keeping something very visible. In the second video, sent immediately after the first, you can see the legs are spread and her something is again visible. And like, this is beyond comprehension. Is that not a fair statement? This stuff should not happen at all. But it does. How could anyone possibly believe there was 9 million? How? I don't understand. I do not understand. After police obtained a search warrant for Brehmer's phone, investigators say they found child POR stuff, sexually explicit photos, images, text messages between her and Schilmiller. And federal prosecutors, they announced the arrest on child pornography charges as well. And so he was charged with production of visual depiction of a minor in a not so great light that was explicit conduct and attempted receipt of those depictions. In a criminal complaint, FBI agent Jessica Hayes said Schilmiller directed Brehmer to record this exploitation of girls. Brehmer told police that she shot video of a girl who was 8 or 9 and another who was 15 and sent them to Schilmiller. So there was multiple incidents. In interviews, she referred to him as Tyler from Kansas. Hayes, who is part of the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force, said in a criminal complaint that investigators were able to determine that Tyler was actually Schilmiller. And so these text messages on Brehmer's phone show Schilmiller directing Brehmer on how she should assault the older girl. Now, federal prosecutors in Anchorage said Schilmiller, who is a person of interest at that time, will be extradited to Alaska to face charges. And yes, he was. And Hoffman's family said that the victim had the mental age of a 7th grader and that she met Brehmer when they were both students. That's what, as I mentioned, Cynthia Hoffman had shared. Now, Brehmer, she has since pleaded guilty to killing her best friend. And so she pleaded guilty after a man online had promised her $9 million for photos of the killing. Denali Brehmer, she admitted in Anchorage, Alaska courtroom just this past week to first-degree murder of Cynthia CeeCee Hoffman, 19 years old. Rest in peace, Cynthia Hoffman, taken from this world way too soon. She was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head, in the back of the head, and bound with duct tape after she went missing on the Thunderbird Falls hiking trail. And prosecutors claim that Brehmer, who was 18 years old at that time, was catfished by the millionaire Tyler to murder someone in exchange for millions, as I've just shared with you in this whole story. Now I'm giving you I'm finalizing it with the guilty plea. And that's when police later revealed that the catfish to be Darin Schilmiller, who was 21 years old at that time, who started this online relationship. And on the day of her disappearance, Brehmer told police that she and then 16-year-old Kayden borrowed a friend's car and drove to the popular trail with Hoffman on June 2nd. And as I've just read to the whole story, the whole thing, Mcintosh was also charged with 1 count of murder. The third teenager with 1 count of murder was named as 19-year-old Caleb Leland. Leland confessed to police that he helped plan Hoffman's death and let his car to Brehmer to commit this incident. The teens told police that each of them was supposed to receive a share of the Schilmiller's promised $9 million for their role. Now, meanwhile, Schilmiller, again, he was arrested in 2019 and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit. He is currently awaiting trial. And back in 2019, Hoffman's family said that the victim's mental age was of a 7th grader and that she met Brehmer when they were both at Service High School, as I shared. And she was described as her best friend. This is sad in so many ways. Is that not a fair statement? Because at the end of the day, this shouldn't happen. And it's even worse that anyone actually bought that someone was going to give you $9 million for someone who already had a problem. He told her he had a problem. This girl was that gullible. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know that anyone can understand that. But she has been found guilty. She pleaded guilty, and her sentencing will come. She will receive anywhere from 30 years at a minimum to 99 years. At her age, she'll probably get 30 and probably tacked on some other stuff. Who knows? But it will be a long time. There's a good chance I may not be alive if she ever sees the light of day. My friends, if this is the type of story you like to follow, hit that subscribe button. My goal is to be a voice for victims like Cynthia Hoffman, taken from this world way too soon. My friends, that's why I do this, so that you can be aware of what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. I don't know if Denali Brehmer had showed any red flags. I don't know. You know, there's always us on the outside, and then you have the inside of what this was like at that moment, what Denali was even thinking that would, do you really think? She had to think she was going to get millions. This guy actually believed I loan you my car to commit this heinous crime, I'm going to get $500,000? Even that, these kids had to be really gullible. I thought kids are smarter these days, but these young adults, those young kids, I don't get it. I don't get it. But people do still fall for scams. And this guy, the 21-year-old, did you really think you were going to get away with it? Who does that and think they're going to get away with it? Help me understand that part. But anyway, my friends, this has been another episode of Deep True Crime. Until next time, Be safe, be careful. Talk to you soon.